In many procurement scenarios, the party who ships the goods and the party who receives payment are not the same. A buying cooperative may negotiate pricing with a manufacturer on behalf of its members. A farmer may purchase tractor tires through a cooperative that has a purchasing agreement with a tire supplier. The purchase order goes to the tire supplier. The payment goes to the cooperative. Those are two distinct business relationships, and a purchasing system should be able to track them separately.
Carillon makes that distinction a standard part of the data model. In Carillon, a vendor is who you pay. A supplier is who you issue the purchase order to. These are separate records with a many-to-many relationship. A single item can have multiple suppliers, one of which is designated as the primary supplier. Within supplier maintenance, each supplier can be associated with multiple vendors, and a supplier price file exists for each supplier/vendor combination, including effectivity dating on pricing. That means the price Carillon applies to a purchase order can reflect both the specific supplier shipping the goods and the specific vendor receiving the payment. When a purchase order is created, the user specifies both the supplier and the vendor. Those can be the same party or different parties, supporting buying group, cooperative, and purchasing agent arrangements as part of the standard purchasing design. Carillon's architecture allows the accounts payable liability to be directed to a completely different legal entity than the one receiving the purchase order, as a standard, non-customized feature. Carillon also uses that multi-supplier structure to support purchasing decisions. At purchase order creation time, if a less expensive supplier is available for the item being ordered, Carillon notifies the user natively on the PO entry screen. The buyer can see whether the current supplier selection is the lowest cost option before the order is placed. NetSuite's standard procurement model works differently. Oracle documents a multiple vendors feature that lets an item be associated with more than one vendor. For each vendor, users can track information such as the vendor's item code and purchase price, and one vendor can be marked as preferred. Oracle states that the preferred vendor appears on purchase orders by default. That is useful functionality, and it should be acknowledged. But it is still vendor-based. In NetSuite's standard purchasing flow, the purchase order, item receipt, vendor bill, and payment process are organized around the vendor relationship. Oracle's documentation describes associating vendors with items, choosing a vendor on the purchase order, using that vendor's currency for the purchasing process, and then validating the vendor bill against the purchase order and item receipt. Oracle's standard purchasing documentation reviewed for this reason does not show a native standard purchase order structure where the supplier receiving the purchase order and the vendor receiving payment are separate parties on the same PO. That distinction matters for businesses that operate through buying cooperatives, purchasing groups, manufacturers' representatives, or other multi-party procurement arrangements. NetSuite can associate multiple vendors with an item and can default the preferred vendor onto purchasing forms. Carillon goes further by separating the supplier relationship from the vendor/payables relationship as part of the standard data model. With Carillon, the user can say, "Order this item from this supplier," using the price file tied to this supplier-vendor relationship, but pay this vendor. In NetSuite's standard purchasing flow, the item is associated with vendors. The purchase order is issued to a vendor, and the vendor bill is validated against the purchase order and item receipt. Separating the ordering party from the paid party would generally require customization, integration, or a process workaround outside that standard flow.